So today your objective is to simplify and solve expressions using square and square roots. Okay? So a square and a square root. We know that the square root of 49, notice it has a little house in front of the 49. That is the square root symbol. We know that the square root of 49 is 7. Okay? And we know that because 7 times 7 is 49. Okay? We're all writing this down. So we could also write this as 7 squared. 7 with a little 2 means 7 squared. It means to say 7 times 7. So 7 squared is 49. Okay? Does anybody remember seeing squares in the 5th or 6th grade? Okay? So the inverse or opposite, so inverse means opposite. The inverse or opposite of squaring a number is to take the square root. Okay? So if you go back up and look at the top, the square root of 49 is 7, right? 7 squared is 49, okay? So when you're asking for the square root, you're looking for the number, the whole number that multiplies to itself, okay? So the square root of 49 is also called a perfect square because it is a square root is a whole number. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to practice our memory of perfect squares, or you can use your multiplication sheet, and we're going to fill out the table. So we're going to start, and then I'm going to let you finish the rest on your own. So we have 1 squared, and 1 squared means 1 times 1. So what is 1 squared? It is 1. 1 squared is 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 squared, which is 2 times 2. So I can write it right here, 2 times 2, it is 4. 3 squared, which is 3 times 3, gives you 9. Okay? 4 squared is 4 times 4, and that gives you 16. Okay, so what I want you to do is go ahead and fill out the rest on your own. Okay, so somebody tell me what 5 squared is. Raise your hand. Ashley, it is 25. So 6 squared is what? 36. Ashley, what is 7 squared? It is 49. Okay, so Malia, what is 8 squared? 64. So 9 squared is what, Bobby?
9 squared?
Uh-huh.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm confused.
Now, what is 9 times 9?
9 times 9,
It's 81.
No, I'm thought we're on this.
No, we are on the first one. So 10 squared is going to be 100. 11 squared is 121. 12 squared is 144 because it's 12 times 12. 13 squared is 169. 14 squared is 196. And 15 squared is what? 225. Okay? So it is multiplying a number to itself, the number given to itself. Now it says fill in the square roots by filling out the table. So when we're looking at this, when you look at the numbers, you're going to fill out what the square root is, right? So 1 times 1 is what? 1. 2 times 2 is what? 4. So that's saying the square root of 4 is 2. So what would the square root be if you got 3? If 3 was the square root, what would you have? 9. Okay? So the next one down should be what? 16. So go ahead and take a moment and fill those out on your own. So what would 5 be? 25. And 6 would be what? 36. 7 is? And 8 is? 64. So the square root of 64 is 8. Okay, so what would the square root be if it was 9? And then 10 would be what?
100.
And then 11 is 121. 12 is 144. Then we have 169,
160,
196, and 225.
Fill that information in. We're going over this. It's up on the board.
So this says evaluate the following expressions. So I am taking what I know about square roots, okay? And I'm going to use that information to simplify this and solve, okay? So I'm looking at this that says 2 times the square root of 64. I know that I have to multiply 2 to whatever the square root of 64 is because I do not see an operation between the 2 and the square root symbol. So when I don't see an operation, I know I need to multiply, okay? So the square root of 64 is going to be 8. And then I'm going to multiply 8 to 2. So I'm going to get 2 times 8. And 2 times 8 is what? It's going to give me 16. Okay? So now number 2. I have 5 plus the square root of 121. Okay? Well, I'm going to simplify and find out what the square root of 121 is first. And I know that is 11. And then I'm going to add 5 to 11. Notice I brought everything down and I'm writing everything down.
Oh, you're adding it.
Yes, because there's a plus sign between the 5 and the square root box. So 5 plus 11 gives me 16.
You have to follow the...
Look at 3. It says negative 3 times the square root of 225 plus 10. So what is the first thing I need to do? I need to figure out what the square root of 225 is. And what is the square root of 225? 15. So I'm going to say negative 3 times 15. And I'm going to bring down the plus 10. Because I haven't done anything with the plus 10, have I? Okay, it's very important that you bring everything down. So now I'm going to follow my order of operations. And I have to multiply first. So what is the first thing I have to do? Negative 3 times
15.
and that gives you what?
Negative 45.
Negative 45. And I'm going to add that to 10. So negative 45 plus 10.
You're going to get a negative 35.
And Jacob is right. I'm going to get a negative 35. Okay? Any questions? So we're going to do this one together. So now I have the square root of 144 minus the square root of 36. So I have to figure out what first? I have to figure out what the square root of 144 is and the square root of 36, right? So what is the square root of 144? 12. And the square root of 36 is?
6.
So I have 12 minus 6.
6.
So 12 minus 6 is what? Is 6. Okay? So now I have 15 times the square root of 16. So in your head real quick, since it says you do, what is the first thing that you need to do?
Find the square root.
You need to find the square root of 16. So find the square root of 16. And then what do you need to multiply it to?
15.
15. And that gives you
60.
okay, so now do number 6 on your own, which is the negative square root of 81 plus 20. So this should be negative 9 plus 20, and that gives you 11. Any questions? Okay, so let's look at number 7 and 8. So the area of a square is shown below. Find the side length of the square. What do we know about a square? What do we know about the sides of a square? They're all what? They're all the same, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay, so it means everyone would be exactly the same. So it says the area is 25 feet inches squared. So what do we need to do with that?
25 times.
Not 20. No, it's the area. Is 25 times. The area is 25 inches squared, which is the outside.
Every single side is 5.
Yes. Yes. Excellent. Every single side is 5 because the square root of 25 is 5. So the area would be 5. Okay? Because you're finding the square root of 25 inches squared. Okay? So Ivan's room is a square with an area of 144 square feet. So the first thing I would do is I would draw a square. Okay? And it's 144 square feet. Okay? What is the perimeter of the room? Well, the perimeter is the outside. Okay? So that means we have to find out what each side length is, and then we have to multiply it. Okay?
12.
Not multiply it.
Okay, what did you ask me today?
So what is the square root of 144? 12. So we have to say now how many we have to say 12 times 4. Okay? 4. 12 times 4. And that gives you 48. So the perimeter would be 48 feet. Okay? Okay, go ahead and do problems 1 through 10 on page 1 of your homework agenda. If you have any questions, come see me.